Today we are going to be making cassava flour pizza crust. That is a staple in our house. We love having pizza. We probably have pizza at least once a week, and we prefer to make our own because we just don't want all the added ingredients and all the chemicals that tend to be in it, as well as all the sugars. So we are making a sugar-free, gluten-free, nut-free pizza crust. And this is actually a fairly new recipe that I really do like. It has great consistency, and you can actually pick it up like a pizza. So we are going to start with, this is a cassava flour that I get. I get this off of Amazon. I get a big bag of it. And I already have one that was cooking, so we wouldn't have to wait for it. Hold on, this is gonna get messy. Okay, and it smells delicious. Today will be pizza day. Okay, so I got the cassava flour. Hold on. And then it also calls for arrowroot powder, which is a starch. It's kind of like it helps it hold together a lot better. No, thank you. You're gonna do that. Can you pour some of that in? You don't have to whisper. Okay. There you go. Yeah. So I use a cup and a half of the cassava flour. And then a cup of arrowroot. Hold on, no, we're not going to stir that because it's going to get messy. Okay. Okay, and then we got onion powder. And then, oh boy, and then garlic powder. Might be garlicky. That's okay, we like garlicky. Nope, mommy's going to have to stir this one. I know, not yet. And then we'll add some sea salt to it. I know, but see how it's very fluffy powder and arrowroot. And then I'm going to add half a cup of extra virgin olive oil. And some water. And then a cup of water. And then I'm also, hold on, she's very anxious. Just ready to get this going. And then I'm going to have 2 eggs in there as well. Okay, let me start it and then you can finish it, okay? So, I mean, you can mix all the dry ingredients first and then mix in a separate bowl all the wet ingredients and then just combine it. But if I can minimize the amount of dishes I have to do, I'm going to stick with one bowl. What? Okay.
Happy Monday.
Do you want to say something else? No? Okay. Just happy Monday?
Yeah, just happy Monday.
Okay. That's good.
Now?
Not yet. So, it's funny. I just made this 30 minutes ago. And this looks different than the first batch. The first batch was a lot more runny. And this one's got a little bit more thickness to it. So, and I know we're starting, or we started early this morning, but I was feeling really motivated to get dinner out of the way. So this afternoon will be easy day full of play. Yeah, now you can eat. Now you can. Good job. You can also, I mean, if you want like a cheesy crust, you can, no, just wipe it on here. You could throw some cheese in there. You can put some oregano, rosemary, if you want to give it more of an Italian look. So, okay, we're all set. Ready? Now I just lined a baking sheet with parchment paper because it is so much easier to work with. And it just depends on how big you want your pizza crust. With this batch, it made like 2, I don't know how much. Don't eat that. Don't eat that. Yep, she's going to. We're also going to be making chocolate chip cookies. So today is like a comfort food, just rainy-ish, cloudy day. So I thought this would be great. Well, pizza and cookies. Who doesn't want that? You can, I should have probably either put water on my hands or olive oil, but that's okay. I mean, it's not the prettiest, but the ones I did beforehand, which is what we're going to be working with, I thought it was really pretty, so that's okay. So I'm going to put this in temperature for 425, and we're going to cook it or bake it for 12-15 minutes. And then, voila! So I made 2 of these, like this size. I don't know what this would be considered, maybe a 10-inch. And then we're going to put I'll show you kind of what the toppings I put. You can make your own pizza crust or pizza sauce. There's only so much I feel like I can make from scratch. But a lot of times, if I don't have a jar of pizza sauce on hand, then I will make my own sauce. And it's something too special. But I usually get this from Whole Foods. Trader Joe's has a good pizza sauce, but it's organic tomato puree, olive oil, salt, onions, onion powder, garlic powder, oregano, black pepper, and basil. So if I don't have one of these jars just hanging out in my cabinet, then I'll just make my own pizza sauce with tomato paste, where I'll dilute it with water, so it's a lot. It's not as thick. But I have this or actually I had this in my fridge from last week. I was never a pizza, I don't say I was never a pizza girl, but I didn't like a lot of heavy sauce. If I had to choose, I would have preferred to put more cheese on my crust than the sauce. So I don't know, I go lighter on the sauce here just because of how my preference is. But obviously you can put as much sauce as you want. I haven't done like a white sauce, but I was thinking about you can make like a cauliflower based Alfredo white sauce, which I've never done. But this is a thin crust too. Usually my girls are in here helping me put all the toppings on, but they're busy playing, so that's okay. So as many people know now, our family's we're a dairy-free family, so we don't have regular cheese, cow's milk cheese. We use goat cheese, and again we get this. I get my goat cheese at Whole Foods. And mostly Whole Foods because they have already the shredded. You can use the log goat cheese, but it's a little bit harder to spread around. So I am going to sprinkle some goat cheese on here. So it depends if my husband is planning on eating pizza with us on that night or not. If not, I would freeze these crusts. Since I've made 2 batches, I will have 3 extra crusts. So I'll put them in a large containers, separate them with parchment paper so they're easier to pull out. And then, so my oldest likes pepperoni, and my youngest she usually just wants plain cheese. But I get the Applegate Natural Farms. They've got, it's turkey, it's uncured turkey pepperoni. So there's no nitrates, no nitrites, and it is sugar free. So if I'm not careful, I always, before pizza night, I have to make sure we have a bag of these, because they just disappear in the middle of the night. And I don't know what happens. I think I might do half. But. Okay, so I'm also going to put some, I had a patient of mine brought me some fresh basil from his garden. So I'm going to throw some basil leaves on there just to give it a nice extra flavor, but a little bit of a nice Italian touch. And since I'm sure a lot of people do their, I mean, basil is, I used to grow basil, but I don't anymore. Probably should, because I used to make pesto sauce with it, which I guess you could use pesto sauce as a sauce for your pizza as well. Okay, so I will throw this in the oven for, I mean, really, it doesn't need to be in the oven very long, just as long for it to melt the cheese. But it'll probably go in for 10, 12 minutes. Okay. We forgot to grab our stand for the camera, and so my husband's right now holding the phone. I'm sure his arms are going to get tired real soon. So now we are going to shift gears. We are going to make chocolate chip cookies. This recipe I made, this is out of my cookbook, Feast as a Family. I made this a lot whenever I was pregnant, so these would not last long. And I would just make a big batch, throw them in the freezer, and they froze really well. And in my cookbook, there's, like, I use them as kind of ice cream sandwich, or you put icing in the middle if I was really wanting an extra treat. So there's a lot of steps and directions here, and it does say refrigerate for 30 minutes, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to skip that step. This step is kind of, it's a nice step because it helps it from expanding out to make one big giant cookie. But that's okay. We don't have time for that. And if it's one big giant cookie, then hey, it's a, what are those? What was that store? Like the All-American Cookie in malls. I remember going shopping, always seeing that with a big cookie cake or just a big cookie. All right, so we are, I need a bowl. I did start to, I melted my honey and ghee that I made. So we're gonna quickly add the coconut sugar so it can start melting. And then we're going to start with just mixing all the dry ingredients. Oops. I was thinking of everyone that watches the show. Yesterday when I was making my ghee, I burnt it. So it has a nice extra flavor to it, but which I like. I was thinking of my good friend Stephanie, who said she would try making hers. So I should have shown what you can mess up, which is totally fine, because nothing is unrecoverable, I think, in the kitchen. Okay. So we're going to start, this recipe calls for buckwheat. I, however, don't have buckwheat at the moment, so we're going to use spelt flour, which is fine. But I would use either spelt flour, buckwheat, or if you're not necessarily, if it's not, it doesn't have to be grain free, you can do stone ground whole wheat flour. And then we've got flaxseed. So I use the milled flaxseed. So it's fine, it's not chunky. And then the cocoa powder. I got this cocoa powder from Thrive Market. Just gives it another extra chocolate. I mean, who doesn't like chocolate? Yet last week when we were trying to make chocolate and my oldest was not into my chocolate that I was making. Although I did redeem myself and made some chocolate covered bananas, and how I made that chocolate she really liked. So we're getting there. But I get this from Thrive Market. I get my arrowroot from Thrive Market. I do find that it's cheaper and it's still organic. You're not decreasing the quality just because it's cheaper. It's nice because at the end of the month I'll kind of go through my cabinets and see what cooking and baking things I'm low on, and then that's what I'll put in the order for my Thrive Market. I try to only do Thrive Market once a month. Oh, I also got baking soda from it too. Yeah, my cabinet's full of Thrive Market stuff nowadays. But it's also easier because it gets delivered right to me, which I don't know about you guys, but I've been doing a majority of my grocery shopping online. I also use like Instacart, and it's super easy. I make my meal plan for the week. I make my grocery list based on that meal plan so I don't deviate. And then I just look online and I click, check out, and then within 2 hours, it's at my house. So I don't have to actually go pick things out, carry groceries with me, load them back in. Okay. So just going to mix the dry. With this, I would recommend doing dry first and then adding. But since I had to use a bowl anyways to heat up my honey and ghee, then I'm not too distraught about dirtying up another bowl. Okay, so we are, oh, I forgot we have an egg. I haven't made this in a long time, so where's my egg? So we're just going to add the egg into here, and as well as the vanilla. Mix that real quick, and then we'll add the melted butter, honey, and coconut sugar. And that's where it'll say, now for sweet, 30 minutes. Can you hear them back there? Giggling, playing. So this recipe also, it says for butter or ghee, but like I've always kind of talked about with here, I really do like the taste of ghee, and I find it gives these cookies just a different flavor, and it's more of a, well, this one's going to be more of a burnt, toasty flavor. Still haven't quite figured out how to describe my homemade ghee. But I know a couple weeks ago someone was mentioning that their store-bought ghee wasn't that good. And I actually had some store-bought ghee last week, and I definitely agree. My ghee is so much better. Oh, this is gonna be delicious. All right, so now we will add the last little bit of chocolate chips. Anytime I'm cooking or baking with chocolate chips and my girls are in here, whether it's pancakes, waffles, it's expected now that I just lay out just a few little chocolate chips for them to eat. Okay. So I'm going to get my cookie scoop. I'm going to give that this little spray with my coconut oil spray. Just checking on my pizza. I forgot what was in there. I do recommend using a timer, even though I rarely do. A lot of times I have another recipe that I use Cassava flour for my wraps that I don't bake or put on the skillet. I use my griddle, kind of how I use with the spelt flour tortillas. But Cassava flour, it's great because it is much lower on the starch than arrowroot, tapioca. Tapioca, didn't realize this, tapioca comes from the same plant as the Cassava flour, which is Cassava plant. But tapioca is a lot more starchy. Okay. So, we've got these. I am going to flatten them a little bit. Oh, I cannot, for the life of me, remember if they spread out. I think they do a little bit, so I might take a couple of these off. I wish I could get all the cookies on here. I'm that type of person that, I'm sure I've got some fellow ones too, fellow people out there. I like to bring all my groceries in one trip. Same thing with my cooking. I like to get all my cookies on one sheet. My oven is not a normal size oven, so it can't fit like a massive cookie sheet. But one day I will get 24 cookies. Okay, so my crust is done. And we're gonna throw this in. So the crust did bubble up a little bit, which is fine. Just kind of tap it with, and it'll release some of that. I would say I should have smoothed it over, but just going backside. and then put all my toppings on this, which we had already done. And I think that might be it. So the chocolate chip cookies, they usually bake about 12 minutes on 350. And I'll post a picture of those. I'm sure a picture where the girls are tasting them and eating them. But that is all for today. Monday pizza nights, and for desserts we're gonna have chocolate chip cookies. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I look forward to your comments and your questions. And again, like I said, always feel free to comment if you have any questions. I love hearing from you. Hope you have a blessed week, and we'll see you next week.